Hi, can you hear me? Um, there seems to be a problem, guys. I cannot access the chat window. So, if you can unmute and you can ask questions. Hi, Jesh. Thanks. At least you could join. Writing an abstract for a conference. Okay. See, any abstract would be similar. Like whether you're writing for a paper or for a conference, it still is exactly the same. You have to, of course, adhere to the guidelines of the conference norms. But abstracts are basically of two types, structured or unstructured. I hope you can hear me still, right? Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay. So great. If at any point you can't hear me or if I get disconnected, just let me know, guys, because we have a little bit stormy city and there's some construction going on around here. Anyways, so getting back to the abstract, abstract will always be structured or unstructured. Now, you know the difference between a structured and unstructured abstract, right? A structured abstract will be something with, of course, your title or the background, introduction, your methods, results, and conclusion, or a short part of discussion. An unstructured abstract is the same thing but without the titles. So you always give two lines of background, then you define your objective in one sentence. Okay. So start your abstract with giving one or two sentences on the background of the field. Then clearly define your objective or the hypothesis. Then give a brief idea of what methodology you're going to use in that particular study or the poster or the talk that you're going to give in the conference. And when you're describing the methodology, just mention the methods or the approaches that you're going to use just briefly. No need to give any trivial details, bench work details. All these things are absolutely unnecessary. Then go to the results. If you already have the data, then just describe whatever you see or whatever your findings are. But again, you don't need to give like very specific statistical details unless you have a bioinformatics paper or a meta-analysis paper or something. Focus on the findings, not on the statistical data as such, the raw data. And then finally give a couple of lines of conclusions, and that is what is your interpretation based on your findings. That's it. Abstract has to be very short but very concise and extremely precise. No trivial details. You don't need to drone on and on about what the field is, what you're planning to do, or what is done, what you're seeing, etc. But because you have to make sure that you have to adhere to the word limit. In case word limit is not specified in the conference guidelines, then you need to stick to not more than 250 words. That is like the basic thumb rule. Okay. Any clarification on that or any other questions? Yes, absolutely. That's correct. Background. hypothesis, methodology, briefly, results on your findings, and then a couple of lines of conclusion. That's your interpretation. Absolutely correct. So, what else, guys? Tell me, how did you achieve your weekend writing? If you could discuss or describe whatever challenges you face while you're writing the paper. Yes, 250 words. But like I said, always check the conference guidelines. That particular, some they have a stipulation of 200 words. Some may allow you to go until 300 words. So whatever it is, just adhere to it. But even I would like to say that if they allow 300 words, doesn't mean you use the entire limit. If you can be extremely concise and nail the point in 250 words, that's kind of good rule of thumb. Because most of the times you would also put up your abstract on the poster. If you have a poster, if you're not giving a talk, if you have a poster. So if you're putting it up on the poster, then it should not look like a long text, a block of text that nobody would want to read. Okay. Natalie, hi. I've not actually started my PhD yet, but what tips do you have? Natalie, I would say that see, doing a PhD is going to be a really long, arduous, painstaking, but a fun journey if you're really passionate about research. So I would say that go ahead and check out my video about whether research is the right career for you, and you have to first decide whether you want to embark on this journey because you need to be super patient. You need to be passionate about what you're doing. Research is not going to be a 9 to 5 job. It's going to demand long hours, too much patience, and a little bit tenacity to deal with failures. It's not going to be that every day your experiments are going to work or you're going to get results every day. They're going to be 99.9% failure and 0.1% success. So it is that 0.1% success that you strive for, and that's what makes you happy. If that is the case, then definitely go for research, go ahead and do PhD. If you are looking into an academic career, or even I find that for an industrial career, for an R&D career, also these days PhDs are much in demand. So go ahead and check out my video and ask me any question you might have. You need more help, you need more guidance. I will answer all your questions. Paper independently. Yeah, writing a paper independently is not anything rocket science. It's like once you get into the groove, it's just that, opening a Word document and starting with something. And I would say if you have to write something, always start with methods. So it makes it easy because method is something you've done on the bench, it's your bench work. So without worrying about structure, grammar, or phrasing and comprehension and etc., just go ahead and put your thoughts out. Even if you say that I took 5 microliter from this append off and I put it in that append off, or I incubated for half an hour, it's okay. Just write it as you have done it. You can always go back to it and polish it. So it's not a big deal. Once you get the methods in order, your results will be ready because you will have the picture, you'll have the flow of your work. And once you have that, then introduction and discussion will just fall in place. So you're still working and you plan to take up PhD? Yeah. I am not trying to discourage you, at least from taking up a PhD position or going for an academic career, but just think hard because it's going to be 4 to 5 years at least for normal people. So you need to commit yourself, you need to invest yourself, and it will be long journey. It will demand a lot of patience and a lot of emotional investment also. Between lab work and writing. This is normal PhD. You have writing and lab work together. Yes, that is actually extremely difficult. And I myself, who have been there, I thought that I could do that. While my incubations are on, I can sit and write two lines, and when some drill is running, I will sit and write one paragraph. But in reality, that did not happen. So I was supposed to submit my thesis in December, and I thought I can start writing by September or so. But my PhD guide around June or July came to me and, "Have you started writing thesis?" That's what he asked. And I was like, "No, sir, not yet." So he said, "It's better to get started." So I thought, okay, I'll open. I wrote my title. Title was already decided because I have to get that approval. So I started with the introduction and I was lost. So I procrastinated, and until September I never came back to it. And then when I actually started writing, I realized that I had some gaps to fill. I had to repeat some experiments because the data weren't clear. I needed to do some statistical power, etc. So yeah, it is going to be a very tough job. I would say that when you are still doing lab work, which is still targeted, just focus on writing the methods because they will come up very easily. And once you're done with that and you have all the data clean, then take couple of days just focus on writing, for example, results. Then maybe do some more work if you have to. If you leave the lab after your PhD, start organizing your data, start organizing your samples, because you're doing everything in order for your students. And when I was writing, I actually took a whole week off from the lab. I actually sat at home and wrote the discussion within 1 week. Because it takes a lot of time when you're writing discussion for your thesis. For your paper, it might still be easier, but for thesis, it takes a long time. So when you're writing introduction and discussion, I would say take dedicated time to not focus on lab work because you will not be able to do it. It will take a lot of time and it will take a lot of investment. And when you're doing work, you are like cut half and half, and you are not able to focus. So methods, yes, you can still work, but while doing discussion and introduction, I strongly recommend that take the break, sit at home or sit in wherever you find comfortable, and just focus on writing. Start my PhD next month. Been working as research assistant for the past 6 months. I graduated. Okay, that's great. So you already have a flavor of the lab life. You know how it feels like, and you know what demands a lab life makes. So that will help you decide. I think talk to more of your peers, your colleagues, friends, even talk to your mentor. Ask for their advice. Some mentors will steer you one way, some mentors will steer you another way. Talk to people you're comfortable with. And check out my video, and you can talk to me as well. Ask me any questions once you have gone through some amount of stuff that is out there. And still, if you need help making decision, do ping me and I'll help you out. So tell me, guys, have any of you ever written a paper in a weekend? And did you find it fun? Did you find it overly challenging, overwhelming? Did you get through it successfully? Thank you, Natalie. Sure. Do check out and do comment and let me know if you need any more help. I started okay, but have yet to. Yeah, of course. Weekend is for someone who was really pressed for deadline and had to get that paper out. But usually and personally, I do not recommend writing a paper in a weekend. It is just something that you might have to plan out if you are supposed to give your thesis defense in a week or something and your paper is still running out. When is the next live session? I haven't decided yet. It depends on questions and depends on a little bit time, but I plan to do it on Thursday or Friday. I will make a community post as soon as I decide. But I am planning to do at least 30 minutes to 1 hour every alternate day if I can. So maybe I am just hoping that I can get a better outreach and have more people join in and communicate with me, ask questions so that I can do this regularly. Share your challenges and how you overcame them in your PhD. Um, Honestly, I would not say I had like the usual terrifying PhD challenges during my time. I was lucky to have a helpful and a knowledgeable boss. I was the first to the lab, so it made things easier in a way because there were no set practices or rules as such. So it was more like establishing the lab together. And given that I came with a sufficient research expert, it was easier to understand the lab culture, to lab life, and how to set up things in the lab, how to organize. So basically, I was the one who established my lab culture, rules in the lab, and even set up the lab with equipment, benches, pipettes, etc. Like everything that a lab needs. So my challenges were more in my postdoc life, which is very different from PhD. But experimentally or scientifically saying, the first 6 months were really hard because though I had a significant amount of research experience, techniques vary from lab to lab and from environment to environment. So those exact same assays that worked in my previous labs took me about 6 months to optimize in my PhD lab because the setting was different, the regions were different, companies, different languages, and it was in a different city, country, believe it or not. Environment, temperature control, all those things matter a lot. So it took me about 6 months to optimize most of the parameters, but once it was set, I was on the roll. It was like new stuff. lay out and standard protocols like Westerns. So that was not the challenging part. The challenging part was the hypothesis and how we address it and what methods, approaches, or protocols we can use, all those things. I'm not sure that it would be at your end or at mine because we have bad weather and hence bad connection today. But I hope even with the static, I'm still audible enough. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here, and we'll post on the community for the next live. Um, okay, some of the common questions. I also get asked sometimes that why or how did I join my PhD and why did I decide to go for a research career. There's a very interesting story behind it, actually. So this was my experience in TIFR when I was working as a JRF and still just starting out as a junior research fellow. And there were several experiments, and I was working with a PhD student who taught me most of the things about my research. It was fun, but it was also that I I was just very fresh out of masters. So I had no idea about lab life or lab culture as such. So it was everything was very new to me. I didn't know what you're supposed to know before you go to the lab or how you're supposed to work in the lab and how actual real life experiments are done because things are very different from your bachelor's and master's lab to your institute or a research lab as such. So, and his method of teaching was that he always asked me questions about all the basic stuff related to particular experiment that we were planning. So it was fascinating, but also it made me quite nervous and sometimes very anxious about that particular experiment, and I don't know what all goes behind it. So although theoretically I might be sound, I had no idea about how to apply that theoretical knowledge into designing a particular experiment. And that was the biggest challenge for me. So that's when he started teaching me that tomorrow we're going to do this. So you need to know this much stuff theoretically and how you use it. He made me actually think. I made me realize that just theoretical knowledge is not good enough unless you're not able to apply it to everyday research. So that's how I started learning and doing things. So one fine day, he just up and told me that his duration PhD time is over and he's going to move on to his postdoc. So he thinks I'm ready to take over the project, and now I would pretty much be on my own. So I could, of course, email and ask questions if I needed help and guidance because he had started the project. But most of it, I will be solely responsible for the whole project and the paper that was to come out. So, as much as I was excited, I was nervous as well. But I slowly and steadily took over. Of course, I had seniors and colleagues and peers to guide me. Uh, so one fine day when we were designing an experiment, it was about effect of GTP on a particular protein and approaching it uh, to look at its restriction cleavage pattern using trypsilation. And this experiment was a revision asked by one of the reviewers for that particular paper. And we had to do it in a very short time. So we were using the simplest most approaches. So once that was designed, I we took the whole day designing, planning the experiment. It was between me, a couple of other people who were also on that paper, and then we were planning to start it on the next day so we could finish it within the. So by the time it was end of the day, it was past 7 something in my city. So we were like, it's designed, prepped, and ready. We're going to start early in the morning. So while I was going home, I was just so super excited about doing that whole experiment and seeing whether the hypothesis was correct. The way we were envisioning that particular pattern of the protein was like it was just so much excitement that I could not sleep for the rest of the night. And I was up and early and first in the lab that day had just started doing stuff. Usually I started like late mid morning or something. But I was up and running and I was so charged with that energy to see what is going to be the result of my experiment. And of course, it was going to take 3 to 4 days to do the whole experiment with the sample prep, the digestion, gel, Western, then developing and then interpreting everything. But it was just like those 3 4 days, it was just super charged, filled with energy. I just could not contain it. And by the end of it, yes, the first experiment itself thankfully just worked. It just clicked. That was the best data we got. That really, really like made me realize that this is what I want to do. And although at that point I had almost somewhere in my head, I had decided that at some point I'm going to do PhD. This particular experiment, or you can say the time in the lab, was the turning point, and I decided that yes, I am definitely doing a PhD and I'm definitely going to make research my career at least for the foreseeable future. So that was how I started. So you have to feel that passion, you have to feel that excitement about discovering, because not every day you will discover something or find something that you might have not imagined. Sometimes you just bump into accidental discoveries. And that happened during my PhD also. People trying to validate one particular hypothesis, but coincidentally, we found something totally unexpected, and that was another most exhilarating point of my research career. So these things happen, but they don't happen every day. So you need to keep patience, you need to feel that passion all throughout, otherwise, research would not seem so fulfilling and it would seem like a burden and like a Herculean task. And it should not be it. Because when you are in a research career, you might just never be a multi-billionaire, as my friends like to tell me. And I was like, yes. Some of them, yes, they are, who are in the R&D or the pharma, or if they are. But if you're in the proper lab, you do proper bench work, then you may never be like super, 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 super rich. But that feeling of having discovered something or found something unexpected is only something a true researcher or someone passionate about the field can understand. So, anyone has any questions, feel free to pop it in the chat box. I'll be happy to answer them. Any advice, any challenges that you might have faced in your research career or while writing paper, any pieces, please